It's your real fake news update, not brought to you by Pfizer. We're going to look at the coverage of Trump, who hosted Benjamin Netanyahu once again in the White House. Yes, that's right. Our VIP guest, Netanyahu, flying in, always gets the red carpet treatment, literally. And why don't we go right to ABC and see how they're covering this story? Spoiler alert, they're not covering it very well at all. But here we go.
Israeli official is indicating negotiations for a ceasefire in Gaza could go into effect next week. Indirect talks between Israel and Hamas are happening for a second day in Qatar, but there are still some sticking points, like whether the war will resume after the 60-day truce. ABC News chief international correspondent James Longman has the latest. Hi, James.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, we're still waiting for news out of Doha. The ceasefire negotiations ongoing between Hamas and Israel. These are indirect talks ongoing. But an Israeli official has spoken to ABC News quite bullish about the process so far, saying they're 80 to 90% of the way there. And we're hearing now that Steve Witkoff, who's the U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, he's on his way to Doha. For him to be appearing at this stage would suggest perhaps that they're quite a long way through the process. Someone at his level perhaps wouldn't be there for the earlier conversation. So we'll see.
Just pausing there. Just again, so the context going into this is complete. It's totally insincere, because even you guys can see the heading on the bottom of the screen is that Israel and Hamas are inching toward a new ceasefire deal. That's not a thing. There's no new ceasefire deal. Every deal Israel has broken, every single deal. So the fact that they're going to not tell you that part and pretend that there's something substantial going on here, and that all these meetings are happening, and we know about Witkoff, we know that he is a psychopath Zionist, and if he's coming to the table again, it's to do another bait and switch, and he was the culprit behind the ceasefire. There's been two broken since Trump took office. The first one that was broken, Witkoff was the guy celebrated for doing that, and then Biden tried to take credit on his way out. If you guys remember that one, where Biden's like, no, we did that. And Witkoff, oh, no, we're doing that for Trump. And everybody tried to take credit for it. And at the end of the day, none of it stuck at all, because Israel breaks every single deal. So the fact that ABC is mentioning Witkoff again, and then not following up on that context, which you guys know, because we're reminding you, is very discouraging, to say the least, as far as what a news organization is doing, as far as how they're trying to drum up some sort of excitement that, this moment in time that we could be leading to something. Nothing is happening here. In fact, what they should be covering is Netanyahu coming to DC not to discuss this. It's actually the opposite. They're talking about, and we'll get to this soon, this idea that a two-state solution is not actually possible, which we've known the whole time, because it interferes with Benjamin Netanyahu's ultimate plan and Israel's ultimate plan for greater Israel. So there's no deal being done here. But let's see if they have anything of honest coverage to do on this, and then we'll get to what actually happened in the meeting, and because we're going to cover it accurately.
But it remains the case that there are these big sticking points that have hindered every one of the ceasefires that have been negotiated through this conflict. Namely, the idea that at the end of the period, on this occasion, they're talking about a 60-day pause in the fight, there'd be a permanent peace, and that the IDF would completely withdraw from the Strip. That is something that Netanyahu's coalition partners here in Israel are adamant that they do not want to see happen. So we'll have to wait and see if an announcement does indeed come this week, perhaps through the weekend into next week. Relatedly, though, another headline which is hitting at the moment is from the Israeli defense minister here, Israel Katz, who has once again raised the possibility of forcibly displacing Palestinians in Gaza. He's talking.
Okay, so at least they're mentioning that part, that Israel, behind all of this crap about a ceasefire deal, they actually just want to get everyone out of there. That's it. That's called ethnic cleansing. That's what that is. There's no way around it. You can try and create a different word about it. You can kind of maneuver around vocabulary, language. But at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. And of course, that's not something anybody is going to agree with at all. Let's go inside the dinner. We'll call it, it's a quote unquote dinner between Trump and Netanyahu. And let's look for clues as far as who's actually in charge in this room. Spoiler alert, it's not Trump. Okay, here we go.
Do you think that there can be a two-state solution that creates an independent?
I don't know. I'd ask Bibi that question. You have the greatest man in the world to answer that age-old question.
Wow. So right off the bat, Trump, tell us how this two-state solution will work. I can't tell you that. I'm not in charge. So we have the greatest man in the world. The greatest man is sitting right here. Why don't you, Mr. Great, Netanyahu, murderer, psychopathic genocider killer, why don't you answer the question? Because I don't know if I can do it justice since you're actually calling the shots. All right, take it away, Benjamin Netanyahu, psychopath murderer.
Go ahead, you give him your honest answer.
I think Palestinians should have all the powers to govern themselves, but none of the powers to threaten us. And that means that certain powers, like overall security, will always remain in our hands.
Overall security will always remain in our hands. I'll bring me up here. We would love for them to have their own way to live in a normal way. But the problem is we're going to keep the security control, and we're going to control everything that we've been controlling for years. They've been in an open air prison. That's not going to change. The only thing that's going to change is there's going to be less of them because we're murdering them and starving them to death. How are we starving them to death besides blowing the crap out of them? Well, we're also in charge of the electricity. We're also in charge of any sort of distribution of day-to-day supplies. We've been like that the whole way. This isn't just starting on October 8th. This is how it's always been for years and years. And the people, the average age of a Palestinian is in their 20s as far as the majority of people that live there. In other words, they weren't even around when this election of Hamas happened, which is their fault. They elected Hamas and they get what you get, right? Well, they weren't even alive, let alone old enough to vote at the time. But that's another story. In this case, what he is saying, what Netanyahu is saying is, no, there is no two-state solution, period. We will control them. They will never have an army. They will never have military capabilities. They will never be able to police themselves. They will never be able to have security for themselves, because if they did, then we'll feel too threatened. And our feelings are more important than not just theirs. Our feelings are actually more important than anybody on the planet. If we haven't made that absolutely clear by now, we'll drive it home with this point, which is no two-state solution, period. Go on, Netanyahu. Anything else?
Now, that is a fact. And no one in Israel will agree to anything else because we don't commit suicide. We want life. We cherish life for ourselves, for our neighbors. And I think we can work out a peace between us and the entire Middle East with President Trump's leadership. And by working together, I think we can establish a very, very broad peace that will include all our neighbors.
So there you go. And the mainstream media will not comment on this. They're not going to get curious about any of this, which you would assume they might if your job on CNN or MSNBC is to make Trump look bad. So this is the giveaway. And for anybody who's still convinced that Trump is the greatest threat in our entire existence, then where is the pushback from MSNBC and CNN? Because that's been their job for the last 10 years. Their job is to ram it in our throats that this is the most dangerous person on the planet. So why are you not commenting on this? Why are you not saying, why is Trump not answering this question? Why is Trump passing it back to Netanyahu? They're not going to tell you because that's not their job. Their job is to pretend that Trump is the problem and Netanyahu is just a normal. This is just a normal thing we do when we host prime ministers of foreign countries. This is just how we behave. No, it's not a thing. So listen. If that's not enough to boil your blood, wait till you see this part. Is Netanyahu about to nominate Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize? No, this can't be. This has to be satirical, right?
I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved, and you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming from you in particular, this is very meaningful. Thank you very much.
Coming from you in particular, it's kind of ironic since you have killed thousands and thousands and thousands of children. It's interesting that you're giving this to me because I'm the one who funded all of those thousands of children, if not for Biden funding it before I came in, but I'm one of the joint funders of the genocide of these children. So it's kind of funny that you're giving me this nomination. So I thought I'd point that out.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. It's a great honor.
Great honor. Great honor indeed. From Howard Beckett, we're truly living in a time of imperial authoritarianism. I want a wanted war criminal who has murdered 20,000 children in Gaza presents a letter to a man who gave him the weapons for genocide. Nominating Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize is sickening. From Saeed Mohammed Marandi, Trump and Netanyahu burned more Palestinian children alive last night. Really? Yeah, really. I sincerely hope Trump gets the Nobel Peace Prize. It'll wake up the few people still asleep who foolishly think the West is civilized. And here's a shot of those children burning alive last night. Here you go. For those just joining us, this is not a compilation of the worst of the last year and a half. This is last night. This is last night. There you go. Oh, and if that's not enough, how about more fuel to the fire, literally and figuratively speaking? We just found this out. New documents reveal that U.S. is pouring hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid into building IDF air bases and facilities in Israel. Wow. And that's not even including the millions and millions that Trump has given and Biden has given since October 7th. And it's not even including the $4 billion that we give every year anyways. So there's a lot of money. There's a lot of wheeling and dealing and shady shit between two psychopaths, one controlling the other. And I'll stick to that until I'm proven otherwise. But the point is, this is how you report on the news. This is what's actually going on. And you're not going to get this story from the mainstream at all, because it doesn't matter if they're on CBS, ABC, Fox News, MSNBC, or CNN. Their job is to protect the powerful people, the Israeli lobbyists, AIPAC. Their job is to protect the donor class, the elite, and above all else, Israel. So none of that you're going to get from mainstream. And that's why this is a real fake news update, not brought to you by Pfizer.